Senator Richard Gordon, only this time he wants an investigation into what he calls false positive results from the humanitarian group's laboratories. Protests across the country mark the 49th year since martial law was declared under the Marcos regime. And this is why fans stan world-famous K-pop group BTS makes the case for change and takes advantage of a permission to dance before world leaders at the United Nations headquarters. President Duterte claims testing laboratories at the Philippine Red Cross have released false positive COVID-19 results, although he cannot present sufficient evidence. Malacanang clarifies this does not mean the president is doubting COVID-19 tallies. Our Trisha Tarada has more.
President Duterte wants the Health Department to investigate the alleged false positive COVID-19 test results at the Philippine Red Cross, as he once again criticized the organization's chairman, Senator Richard Gordon. Duterte cited 44 cases of false positives among hospital personnel. He said the results turned out negative after confirmatory tests with another lab. But when asked for the president's source, Malacanang could not categorically say where he got his information.
I think isang grupo rin ang nagpa-test niyan at sabay-sabay sila nagpa-test at yan na po naging resulta.
The chief executive also claimed 187 out of 213 personnel of the Presidential Security Group received inaccurate results. The same goes for 13 individuals from the Finance Department, but so far, no formal complaint has been made known to the public. While the president acknowledged that RT-PCR tests are not 100% accurate, he cited a Harvard article that said most false positives could be due to lab contamination or other problems in how the tests were performed. He then questioned the accuracy of COVID-19 figures.
Are your testing facilities and equipment really as good as you say they are? You could be putting more people at risk. You could be falsely adding to the total positive cases per day of this country. How sure are we now in our figures, in the veracity and truthfulness of the test combined? Marami man rin nagpunta dyan sa Red Cross. How do you backtrack? If it is impossible, what do you intend to do?
Malacanang later clarified the president isn't questioning the accuracy of the COVID-19 data, even if he said it himself.
Kaya nga pinapaimbestigahan natin para we will make sure that the tests are in fact accurate. Now we know they're not perfect, but we are taking steps to make them more accurate.
The palace said the RITM will now have to at least randomly check the accuracy of tests of other labs. The PRC on September 4 said it had conducted over 4 million tests, adding it covered the bulk of the testing at the height of the pandemic to, quote, pick up the slack for the government, unquote. The president also questioned Gordon if he inserted pork barrel amounting to 88 million pesos into the PRC, but Duterte did not provide proof or his source for this information.
Ngayon, the money is lost forever. It cannot be accounted for. If this is true, kung totoo itong pinarking mo talaga, ang nagsasabi nga niyan mga taga-Red Cross.
Duterte also accused Gordon and the PRC of not submitting annual reports, which he said is an omission punishable under anti-graft laws. Trisha Tarada, CNN Philippines.
Despite the president's threats to stop government transactions with the Red Cross, Malacanang could not say when this will actually take place. Rather, it reiterates that the president wants accountability from the humanitarian organization. Now, amid Mr. Duterte's unrelenting attacks, the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee holds another hearing on the handling of COVID-19 funds. Lawmakers point out more anomalies, including the expiration of testing kits and the questionable business of top supplier Pharmaly. Amor Santos joins us for the details. Go ahead, Amor.
Via strong words from Senate Blue Ribbon Committee Chairman Richard Gordon for President Rodrigo Duterte. At the 8th hearing on the alleged misuse of pandemic response funds, Gordon called out President Duterte's relentless attacks on him and his humanitarian organization, the Philippine Red Cross.
Bully! And I'm sorry, Mr. President. The Filipino people can fight back against bullies. Filipino can have a revolution against bullies. Di ako natatakot sa inyo. Hindi po ako duwag. Do your worst, Mr. President, as you did with ABS-CBN. Do your worst as you did with the senator who was elected by the people.
Gordon says Red Cross is ready to face the investigation ordered by the chief executive over alleged false positive COVID-19 tests. But even Health Secretary Francisco Duque agreed the Red Cross has been boosting the country's testing capacity. Tuesday's hearing revealed more anomalies that resulted in losses for the government. The DOH admitted 7,925 testing kits worth more than 500 million pesos expired last year. These could have been used for over 371,000 COVID-19 tests. In a letter signed by Health Assistant Secretary Nestor Santiago in December 2020, the DOH requested the procurement service to reschedule the delivery of top supplier Pharmaly Pharmaceutical following the expiry of testing kits delivered earlier. According to health officials, this happened because the only available test kits at that time were due to expire in 6 months, and the country had fewer testing laboratories then. But Senator Kiko Pangilinan says the government should have negotiated for up to 25% discount based on industry practice. The hearing also showed the 500,000 face masks that formerly sold to the government at nearly 27 pesos a piece were bought by Pharmaly from Tiger Phil Marketing Corporation at 24 pesos each. Tiger Phil also sourced it from another supplier, Green Trend Trading, at 18 pesos each, resulting in profits for the companies at the expense of the government. At the last hearing, Gordon also questioned the luxury cars purchased by Pharmaly executives after bagging billions of pesos worth of government contracts. Pharmaly's corporate secretary and treasurer Mohit Dargani says this were an investment. Gordon says the Senate will subpoena the tax records of Pharmaly officials as well as former procurement service head Lloyd Christopher Lau and Chinese businessman and former presidential advisor Michael Yang. Back to you, Tia.
Amor, does the government have pending contracts with Pharmaly?
Yes, Tia, Dargani confirms they have pending delivery of PPE sets. Senator Rito Ontiveros even calls this a continuing crime. Ontiveros also points out that Dargani wrote on his LinkedIn page that he worked as special assistant at the office of the Presidential Economic Advisor, Michael Yang. She says it shows the deep relationship of the Chinese businessman with Pharmaly, but Dargani says it was actually a mistake and he only assumed he was accepted to work in Yang's office. Yeah.
Amor Santos there reporting. Now, no warrant of arrest has been served or issued for Yang. He joined the virtual hearing from Davao City, but he was not asked any questions by the senators after the roll call. There was also a warrant of arrest for Pharmaly Director Lincoln Ong for allegedly lying in previous hearings. He is now detained at the Senate. He was earlier placed under house arrest because he was positive for COVID-19. Now, there are more than 16,300 additional COVID-19 cases today. Some doctors and data experts say the country is in the longest fourth wave of COVID-19 infections as it saw record-breaking numbers in the past weeks. Carlin Bonkin reports.
While more people are outside under the new alert level system, infectious diseases specialist Dr. Ranjin Solante says situations in most hospitals haven't changed. He says this is by far the longest wave of infections. More people aged 50 and younger are in severe or critical condition. More people needed emergency care. A never-ending job for health workers. Solante adds, many vaccinated doctors and nurses are still getting the virus due to the highly transmissible Delta variant.
Since the 3rd to 4th week of July, most of our ICUs, especially here in our hospital, San Lazaro Hospital, are already full. And until now, it's still full.
While no health agency has a universal definition of a wave, it's usually used to describe the peaks and valleys of reported infections. Okta Research Group's analysis of government's data shows a fourth wave. It's already a week longer than the earlier surge.
It's been the longest surge so far. I think Doc Edsel will agree we are seeing a downturn as we move into the granular lockdown mode, that we do not reverse the gains we have made in the last few weeks.
UP COVID-19 pandemic response spokesperson Professor Jomar Rabajante says, compared to the first and second waves last year, COVID infections did not go down as much after the third wave in March and April, before increasing again by end of July. Aside from Delta, Rabajante sees another factor. The recent enhanced community quarantine was not as strict as last year, but it has somehow helped control the transmission.
I think also sa implementation nun. Kasi dito sa kung saan ako nakatira sa Laguna, even kahit ECQ that time, pwedeng lumabas yung mga tao. Kung walang ECQ that time, baka mas mabilis yung increase. Mas exponential siya. Pero in terms of inhibiting na bababa like this, hindi eh.
But a DOH technical advisor says whether or not there's a fourth wave, what matters more, deaths are not increasing as much as the cases.
More than double yung cases, pero almost kapantay yung number of deaths compared to April, even though expected natin na mas deadly nga yung Delta, hindi yun nangyari. And the only thing that's contributing to that, pagbabakuna natin ng maraming tao.
In fact, over 4,800 people died in August alone, the highest number of lives lost to the virus since the pandemic began. Caroline Bongkin, CNN Philippines.
A teachers group raises concerns over the pilot run of face-to-face classes. The Education Department has yet to issue a list of participating schools, but the gig says it is one of the areas approved by the agency. Now, are stakeholders ready? AC Nichols reports.
After a year and a half of distance learning, a number of students may soon go back to their physical classrooms. President Duterte has approved a pilot run for in-person classes in low-risk areas for COVID-19. Junessa Ruedas welcomes the move. Despite risks, she believes her third-grade son can get better education in the classroom than through a screen at home. He goes to a public school in Taguig City, one of the areas supposedly approved for in-person classes.
Hindi lang yung basta nasa monitor lagi, nasa computer, kasi yung bata, hindi siya ganun ka-focus.
The Education Department said the pilot run will cover kindergarten to grade 3 and senior high school students. Classes will also be limited to 3 to 4 hours. As a senior high school student from Taguig, Maria Consumo will be among those going back to their classrooms, but she says she doesn't want to take the risk. She adds physical distancing cannot be guaranteed, even with a smaller class size.
Di ba po bawal po mag-dine-in kapag hindi vaccinated? Pero bakit po sila pumapayag na mag-face-to-face yung mga bata nang hindi mga vaccinated?
Teachers have concerns as well. For one, only 40% of almost 1 million teaching and non-teaching personnel have been vaccinated.
Napakahirap talaga yan. Just imagine, di ba? Every 2 weeks, nagpapalit tayo ng quarantine category. Diba? Every 2 weeks. Paano yan? Kung ngayon ay okay, tapos next week ay in 2 weeks ay hindi na naman. So bawal na namang lumabas yung mga bata.
Advocacy groups including the United Nations Children's Fund or UNICEF have been pushing for the reopening of schools in the country, citing learning loss in a prolonged remote learning setup. Some health experts, however, question the preparedness for on-site learning in light of rising COVID-19 cases with a dominant Delta variant.
Sa teachers pa lang tsaka sa mga employees, even if vaccinated sila at marami ding unvaccinated, pwede ka rin nagkaroon ng breakthrough infections. Ang ibig sabihin ng breakthrough infection, after vaccination, nagkakaroon ka pa rin ng tinatawag na COVID, lalo na Delta variant. That's why in other countries, kahit bakunado na yung ibang countries, nagkaka-Delta variant pa. How much more kung mababa ang ating vaccination rate in our country?
The Education Department has yet to announce the pilot run date. AC Nichols, CNN Philippines.
When we return, we take you to Manila, where protesters mark the 49th anniversary of the martial law declaration under the late President Ferdinand Marcos. And President Duterte's advisor renews his call to loosen restrictions for vaccinated individuals. Details next here on CNN Philippines.
po ako.
Okay, ingat po.
Araw-araw, tayo ay hinahamon na mabuhay ng tapat at may integridad.
Sobrang sukli.
Dahil ang mapagkakatiwalaan sa maliit na bagay,
Miss, wallet niyo po.
ay mapagkakatiwalaan din sa malaking bagay. Pero ang mandaraya sa maliit na bagay ay mandaraya rin sa malaking bagay.
Nagsimula sa isang pangarap.
Ako na po, ma'am.
Ika'y tutulungang ibahin ang buhay na nakasanayan.
Naka 24 months ka na sa pag-ibig.
Panghulog na ako sa motor.
Uy, bagong motor!
Gagawa ng hakbang para mapaghandaan ng forever.
Ingat ka ha.
At harapin ang bukas nang may maaasahan. Simulan mo na ang forever mo ngayon. Fund your forever with Pag-ibig Fund.
Register today!
Pogino! Dahil yan sa vet-approved Nutri-Chunks Coat Shine with active boost and prebiotics na pampalisto. Made with real salmon goodness and omega-3 and 6 for healthy skin and shiny coat. Kita naman, di ba? Listo, ganado sa Nutri-Chunks Coat Shine.
Amid the darkness, look on the bright side. As the battle against COVID-19 continues, the fight for proper nutrition grows as more and more families lack access to healthy food. Knorr is no stranger to these health challenges. For over 2 decades, the food brand has championed proper nutrition for every Filipino and continue to do so, especially during these troubling times.
Knorr has an important role to play in addressing the problem of malnutrition. Given our reach and our portfolio of nutritious and delicious products, we are in a position to make a real difference.
Apart from educating moms and partnering with different organizations, Knorr has also remained true to its passion for good food by continually improving on their products to provide essential nutrients that will benefit the families that use them. From its Knorr Sinigang sa Sampalok Mix Original that now contains vitamin C to the popular Knorr Broth Cubes that are now also a source of iron. Knorr's continuing innovation for positive nutrition is part of the Unilever Sustainable Living Plan. The company's mission is to provide a positive social impact in the markets where it operates. For more information, consumers can visit Knorr's website or follow Knorr Philippines on Facebook and YouTube. I'm Sam Tidwani, CNN Philippines.
Welcome back to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. Today marks 49 years since former President Ferdinand Marcos placed the country under martial law. George Quiles joins us live from Liwasang Bonifacio in Manila, where protesters gathered to never forget. George, what can you tell us?
Well, Pia, victims of martial law and their families, with the support of protesters, say that they will always be reminded of the pain, anguish, horror of human rights abuses during the Marcos regime. And they call out the lies, the disinformation, and attempts to cover up those abuses and massive corruption at the time as a blatant attempt to disrespect those who fought to regain democracy. And they cry, never forget and never again to martial law. In Binondo, Manila, things came to a head between protesters and the police, who used water cannons to disperse rallyists attempting to hold an activity and cross MacArthur Bridge to reach Liwasang Bonifacio. The program here at the Liwasang Bonifacio began at 4 p.m. Protesters say Marcos's authoritarian governance is no different to President Duterte, citing alleged human rights abuses and corruption.
Hindi pwedeng ang milyon-milyong tao dati pinatalsik si Marcos na walang dahilan. Totoong may human rights violation ng martial law, totoong may kahirapan, at totoong may pagnanakaw ng panahon ng martial law. At dapat lang ma-recognize ang kabayanihan ng sambayanang Pilipino ng panahon ng EDSA hanggang ngayon, at dapat ma-recognize ang accountability ng mga Marcos at ng Duterte ngayong mga panahon.
Protesters peacefully ended their program here at 6 p.m. Back to you, Pia.
George, were minimum health standards observed during these protests?
Pia, there was an issue of on physical distancing when the police tried to when the police dispersed the protesters using water cannon. But here at Liwasang Bonifacio, there were actually policemen roaming around, reminding people to practice and observe the minimum health standards. And the leaders of groups also are also reminding their members to keep their physical distance and always wear the face mask and face shield. Back to you.
George Quiles there reporting from Liwasang Bonifacio in Manila. Government officials, various groups, and netizens also remember what they describe as a dark period in Philippine history. In a statement, Vice President Leni Robredo reminded Filipinos of the sufferings during the Marcos regime. Robredo urged people to resist attempts to revise events under the former strongman, saying it is our duty to safeguard and push for what she called is the nation's true history. The rights group Karapatan wants Filipinos to go beyond remembering by preventing the return of the Marcoses and President Duterte to Malacanang. The group says Mr. Duterte is implementing a war against dissent like that of the late president. Protesters in Cebu City displayed the same sentiments. Groups decry the supposed atrocities under the current administration and expressed support for the International Criminal Court's probe into President Duterte's drug war. The hashtags Never Again and Never Forget also trending online with mixed reactions from netizens. On Facebook, some described Marcos as the best president for his accomplishments and claimed the country flourished during his term. But these Twitter users reject that mindset as callous, noting that thousands died and billions of pesos were stolen at that time. They add glorifying and denying the nightmares of martial law will only encourage another one. As more Filipinos get their COVID-19 shots, the business sector is proposing to further ease restrictions while the flag carrier wants to cut down quarantine stay for vaccinated travelers. Our Tristan Nadalo has the details.
Saving the fourth quarter of 2021 or the Christmas season was one of the main reasons why the business sector supported the early calls for hard lockdown this year. And with more people getting vaccinated against COVID-19, Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship Joey Concepcion says that it's about time to give more mobility to vaccinated people while protecting the unvaccinated.
We have to protect the unvaccinated. It is not discriminating them. We will have to eventually open entertainment. We are now requesting quarantine levels to go down. We are requesting we have to open up. We have to live with COVID-19.
Concepcion warns that failure to open the economy and generate revenues will directly hit not only businesses but the local government units and even the national government. Meantime, restaurant owners say that sales are slowly picking up following the shift to the alert level system. But for some eateries like Carinderias, they have yet to feel the impact of the policy change.
Ganun pa rin, mahina eh. Kasi yung iba nagtitipid, tapos hindi na sila kumakain masyado kasi natakot.
And ahead of the influx of travelers this Christmas season, flag carrier Philippine Airlines is pushing to ease travel restrictions for fully vaccinated passengers. The Philippine Airlines says its data show that arriving passengers do not contribute to the infection rate in the country. The airline proposes cutting down the current 10 to 14-day mandatory quarantine to 5 days.
International air travel and just air travel in general is not a significant contributor to the Philippines infection rate. Instead of being tested on the 5th or 7th day, they actually will be tested on the 3rd day. And if they are negative, they can exit the quarantine facility on the 5th day and just continue their quarantine at home.
PAL says passengers can save as much as 25,000 pesos with this shortened quarantine. It will also free up hotel quarantine facilities easily and could lead to lower ticket prices. But health experts are not yet keen on shortening quarantine protocols for now amid the Delta surge. The government currently implements the green, yellow, and red categories for countries to determine the length of quarantine of an incoming traveler. So far, the shortest period is 7 days. Tristan Udalo, CNN Philippines.
Still ahead on Newsnight, K-pop group BTS showcases their dance skills while calling for change at the United Nations headquarters. A look when we return.
was changing for photographic film. We help change the world as a pioneer of the digital age. In healthcare, we're revolutionizing diagnostics by applying our AI technology. But why stop there? When we can focus our AI and IoT expertise on business innovation, helping tackle some of the toughest challenges in the workplace. When it comes to innovating for a healthier world and a more sustainable society, we'll never stop. Fujifilm, value from innovation.
Well, I have a long drive ahead, but before I hit the road, I gotta get this car loaded. Good morning, Kuya. Full tank diesel max, please. Whew. When it comes to fuel efficiency and getting the most out of a full tank, you can trust a diesel engine. Diesel fuel cars, well, they're perfect for those long drives. If you're the kind of person who likes to save money, like me, this is perfect for you. The appealing combination of economy and high performance make diesel engines more attractive to car enthusiasts. Diesel engines have a compression-ignited system wherein the fuel is injected into the combustion chamber of the engine. More energy is being extracted from the diesel, thus providing higher mileage. Over time, deposits build up in the tips of fuel injectors, affecting the overall performance. So it's important to consider a fuel that helps keep injection systems clean, and that's where Petron Diesel Max comes in. It has multifunctional additives to maintain overall cleanliness of fuel injection systems. These additives extend the life of the engine. Petron Diesel Max also provides efficient combustion for maximum acceleration and power, and reliable burning quality. Treating engines with care and filling it with premium quality fuel will increase efficiency and prolong its life. Thank you, Kuya. Alright, now that my car is filled up with Petron Diesel Max, I'm also pumped to make the most out of this long drive. Drive safely, everyone.
Watching News 9, I'm Pio Ontiveros. On the road, a sustainable project connecting Skyway 3 and Southeast Metro Manila Expressway will take off after getting official approval. The government greenlights San Miguel Corporation's proposed Pasig River Expressway after the supplemental toll operations agreement was signed today. The 95.40 billion elevated expressway is a toll road that is 19.37 kilometers long. It is expected to adopt green architecture and engineering principles to make for an efficient and eco-friendly transport infrastructure. Barracks can cut travel time from Manila to Rizal Province from the usual 2 to 3 hours to just 15 minutes.
Lahat po ng kalsada tinatayo natin, puro north to south. Ito lang po, for the first time, east and west. It will solve the traffic of Rizal Province area, Marikina area, pati na po yung mga nanggagaling sa mga south, like Laguna, Batangas, dadaan po yan sa Laguna Bay at makakapunta na kayo sa Makati ng mabilis.
SMC says it may begin construction within the first 3 months of 2022. Now, in entertainment, yesterday's United Nations General Assembly was met with over 1 million viewers as a world-famous K-pop group gave a speech on spreading hope for the younger generation during the pandemic. Aired on the UN YouTube channel and other social media platforms, the event in New York gained quite the online following. This is because boy band BTS gave a speech at the event to encourage the youth to forge ahead amid challenges in the current COVID-19 situation. They also touched on the importance of vaccination, with the group announcing they got inoculated in order to appear on the UN stage. Part of their visit was a taped performance of their latest hit, Permission to Dance, where members sang at various points at the UN's headquarters. The video has over 6 million views and counting on YouTube. We still have 95 days before Christmas Day. And that is it for now. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again at 7 on news.ph. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
Kini ang RPN DXKD Radio Runda 1053 kHz.
Dapitan City Councilor Jezebel Bing Balisado, konsehal sa Dakbayan sa Dapitan nga dali duulon og maabibihon sa iyang mga katawhan. Konsehal Bing Balisado maluluyon og matinabangon sa tanang higayon. Konsehal Bing Balisado sa Dakbayan sa Dapitan.
Let's be the solution plus sa COVID-19. B. Bawal walang mask at face shield. I. Isanitize ang kamay at iwasan ang kulob na lugar. D. Dumistansya ng 1 metro at limitahan ang pisikal na interaksyon sa iba. A. Alamin ang tamang impormasyon. Plus, suportahan ang FDA-approved na bakuna. BIDA Plus. Bida Solusyon Plus sa COVID-19.
Isang paalala mula sa Department of Health, Zamboanga Peninsula.
Honorable Angel Halusos Carion, Batanon, Buutan ug Malagaron, City Councilor of the Dapitan City, Chairman, Committee on Tourism, Committee on Labor, Committee on Child Welfare and Development. Honorable Angel Halusos Carion, Batanon, Buutan ug Malagaron, City Councilor of the Dapitan City.
Kugihan, Buutan, matinud-anon sa iyang pangalagad, Honorable Jeffert Greg Bimbim Gamalinda Amoy, City Councilor of Dapitan.
Chairman Committee on Trade, Commerce, Cooperatives and Cottage Industries.
Chair, Committee on Social Services, Urban Poor and Resettlement and Committee on Public Works and Infrastructure.
Vice Chairman Committees on Health and Sanitation, Child's Welfare and Development, Economic Enterprise.
Member Committees on Public Utilities, Peace and Order, Barangay Affairs and Community Development, Human Rights and Good Government. Kugihan, Buutan, matinud-anon sa iyang pangalagad, Honorable J. Vert Greg Bimbim Gamalinda Amoy, City Councilor of Dapitan.
RPN Radio Philippines Network. DXKD Dipolog Radio Ronda. Member, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Do you sometimes wake yourself up in the middle of the night from your loud snoring? Sometimes you wake up because you're gasping for air, or you find yourself taking more naps than usual during the day. You might have sleep apnea. It's a disorder in which breathing actually stops and then starts back up again. Now, the lack of oxygen during an episode of sleep apnea wakes you up. It's so brief that sometimes you can't remember it. People with this condition aren't just experiencing sleep deprivation. There's actually more to it because it can be potentially serious. We want to help you better understand the care you need and deserve. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and you're watching Medtalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. There are different types of sleep apnea, and knowing what these are and how they can be addressed can also avoid complications such as heart disease, stroke, depression, and chronic fatigue, among others. With us is Dr. Deborah Bernardo. She's a neurologist and sleep specialist from Capital Medical Center and St. Luke's Medical Center. Also joining us is Ms. Crisel Pascual, who's a respiratory therapist and a professor at the College of Respiratory Therapy at New Era University. We'll talk about sleep apnea. So people with untreated sleep apnea stop breathing repeatedly for several episodes during their sleep. Sometimes even 100 times during the night, nagkakaroon sila ng episodes na tumitigil silang huminga. Now, I'll start first with Ms. Crisel. Why is this considered a serious medical condition, And what can it potentially lead to kaya? Anong ibang mga other health problems or diseases na pwede mangyari kapag hindi naagapan ang sleep apnea?
Okay, so for sleep apnea, it causes us to have disturbed sleep during the night wherein dapat nagpapahinga yung katawan po natin. So that disturbance in sleep may lead to chronic fatigue, and then eventually yung pag may sleep apnea po kasi ang tendency is decrease yung oxygen in our body, that can affect our organs as well. Yung pag-decrease po na oxygen in our body can damage kasi nagkakaroon po ng less po na oxygenation in our organs in our body.
So pag-uusapan natin on what those could lead to later on in the show. But most often, the first signs of sleep apnea aren't recognized by the patient but who they sleep with o kung sinong kasama nilang matulog. And many of those affected with sleep apnea usually have no sleep complaints to begin with. So, Dr. Debbie, let's discuss some of the symptoms first.
So, first and foremost, of course, they will be snoring loud. That can be heard outside of the bedroom, no? Talagang ganun kalakas yung snoring. And then, the effect will be excessive daytime sleepiness. It is actually the most common cause of excessive daytime sleepiness. Yung hindi ka nakatulog ng maayos sa gabi because sa sobrang non-restful ang iyong tulog sa gabi.
Okay, now clearly those with sleep apnea will experience some form of exhaustion the next day. Katulad ng sinabi na Dr. Debbie, no? So parang kahit na nakatulog sila ng ilang oras, pagising na parang pagod pa rin. Kasi nga, your interrupted sleep doesn't allow for the body to rest. But let's go back to snoring a little bit. To be clear to our viewers, not everyone who snores has sleep apnea and not everyone who has sleep apnea snores. Kaya I'd like to ask Dr. Debbie, paano mo malalaman na ang snoring ng isang tao is something that is serious? Because marami sa mga viewers natin, I'm sure, feel na humihilik sila kapag pagod. Humihilik lang sila when they're really tired or in some instances paano nila malalaman na normal ang kanilang snoring?
Well, yun, occasionally, triggered lang siya kung pagod ka, ganun. Pero, we call it sleep apnea kung talagang every night halos, malakas ka mag-snore, and then your snoring is, after you snore, you are awakened by gasping for breath, or even coughing, snorting, ganon. Kasi talagang hindi na makapasok ang hangin. So the brain wakes you up to resume normal breathing and normal breathing para makahinga ka ulit ng maayos.
Let's talk about some of the two general types of sleep apnea. There are actually two types, yung obstructive at yung central. Dr. Debbie, let's first talk about kung ano ba yung obstructive sleep apnea.
Obstructive, as the term implies, merong bara sa lalamunan or sa passageway ng hangin na hindi siya makapasok sa lungs. So it can start from the nose, the throat, and then dito pababa before it enters the lungs. So ang most common cause dyan will be kung excess weight, kasi syempre meron din weight fat dito sa leeg natin. Kaya nagbabara yung daanan ng hangin.
But let's go on naman to yung less common form of this disorder, which is central sleep apnea naman. Ms. Crisel, explain natin sa mga viewers kung ano ba yung central sleep apnea at ano yung mga risk factors para dito.
For central sleep apnea po, it means there is no obstruction but the body basically parang nakakalimutan po siyang huminga. So sleep apnea is a cessation of all breathing. So wala po tayong breathing from the upper airways, wala din pong breathing from the chest. Ang nangyayari po dyan, ang most common po na ano po dyan yung mga...
Kini ang RPN DXKD Radio Runda 1053 kHz.
Katungod sa publiko nga masayod, sa tinuod nga paghitabo sa palibot, may kalabot na ang pagpadagan sa mga buhatang lokal o nasyonal. Masayod sa gihimo sa mga gitahasan nga magdumala sa rinda sa atong pangagamanan.
Tungod nini nataw kining tulumanon.
Sayri ang lungsod. Sayri ang lungsod. Gidalit kaninyo ni Sibiana RPN DXKD Dipolog. Sayri ang lungsod.
Dinhi inyong madungog ang paghimay sa mga nag-unang isyu o gisgutan may kalabot na sa katilingban. Sayri ang lungsod.
Mga problema, reklamo sa komunidad nga gustong ipabot sa mga hintungdang opisina o namunuan. Sayri ang lungsod.
Inyong madungog dinhi lamang sa inyong gisaligang RPN DXKD Radio Runda Dipolog 1053 sa dial sa inyong mga radio. Sayri ang lungsod.
Makita usab sa inyong official Facebook page sa RPN DXKD Dipolog, YouTube o Twitter. Please subscribe, like, share, and follow. Sayri ang lungsod. Sayri ang lungsod. At ang paminawa ug sundak kanunay matag adlawng Domingo alas 9 ngadto sa alas 11 ang takna sa kabuntagon ang inyo ug atong tulmanon. Sayri ang lungsod. Sayri ang lungsod.
DXKD Ronda Balita. Mga balitang may kamatuuran, way gidapigan o hilisgutanan sa katawhan. DXKD Ronda Balita. Mga labas na mga balita gikan sa sinaligang mga tinubdan. Balitang hinimo sa lawak balitaanan. Diin inyong madungog ang mga balitang lokal, regional, national o international o uban pang may kalabutan sa atong katilingban. Gihatod kaninyo live gikan sa RPN DXKD Radio Ronda Broadcast Center. DXKD Ronda Balita. Inyong madungog matag adlawng Lunes hangtod Biyernes alas 12 hangtod sa alas 2 sa kahaponon ug makita usab sa RPN DXKD Dipolog Facebook page, YouTube ug sa Twitter. DXKD Ronda Balita.
RPN DXKD Radio Runda 1053 kHz.
Many health conditions are linked to sleep apnea, including obesity as well as high blood pressure. Now, these conditions, together with a lack of sleep, can harm different systems in your body. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and you're watching Medtalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines, where your care always comes first. As we mentioned earlier, snoring is more than just a source of irritation to those sleeping around you. Now, it could mean that you are more prone to having more serious health problems, and one of them is a stroke. Dr. Debbie, can you please explain to our viewers ano yung connection between sleep apnea and stroke?
Maraming connection yan, no? Besides the hypertension it causes because you are not resting during the night, may mga studies na yung the vibration of the neck muscles itself can cause some problems in the carotid arteries, the major arteries that supply the brain, no? So that could be one possible reason kung bakit na predisposed ka to stroke if you have sleep apnea.
How is sleep apnea? How can it make someone who is diabetic, how can it make their condition worse kapag meron silang sleep apnea?
Sleep should be a time for rest and repair of our bodies, no? So there are systems that should go into play pag matutulog tayo sa gabi, bababa yung mga hormones, ganon, cortisol especially. So kung because of your being not rested during the night, palaging elevated ang mga steroid levels in your body, which is directly related to the development of diabetes mellitus.
I'll ask Ms. Crisel, pinag-usapan ni Dr. Debbie yung mga risk factors ng sleep apnea and how it's related din sa ating heart. So pag-usapan natin yun, how can sleep apnea put your heart at risk?
When we're sleeping po kasi, our heart slows down to parang resting na rin po. Yung pag may sleep apnea po kasi, tendency is magkaroon po tayo ng tinatawag po namin na arousal, ligising katawan nyo. So that sudden arousal po will make your heart pump faster. And also, yung pag-decrease po na oxygen sa katawan, magko-compensate po yung puso. Magpa-pump siya faster. So, yung pag-pump niya, mag-overwork, pwede po siya may tendency na mag-overwork. Pwede pong lumaki yung puso. So, kung lalaki po yung puso, pwede po tayo magkaroon ng parang wear and tear, kumbaga, sa puso po natin. So, yun po, magkakaroon po ng cardiac problems eventually.
Now, Dr. Debbie, anong mararamdaman ng isang pasyente who has sleep apnea and who already has heart symptoms? Anong nararamdaman nila sa daily routine nila?
It will aggravate, no? Kung ano man yung nararamdaman niya sa heart symptoms niya like chest pain, madaling mapagod, or palpitations, yung mararamdaman mo yung bilis ng pintig ng iyong puso. If you have sleep apnea, parang magnified lahat mga yon kasi you are not allowing your body to rest.
So similar katulad ng sinabi ni Dr. Debbie, so there is irregularity in your heartbeat as well as pagod kayo even after a good night's sleep. So let's move on naman to sleep apnea at obesity or yung pagiging overweight ng isang tao because several health conditions increase the likelihood of developing sleep apnea. But it's most common in those who are overweight or obese. Dr. Debbie, how does excess weight aggravate that of sleep apnea? We talked about the neck part of it, yung girth ng leeg ng isang taong overweight can contribute to the obstruction properties of sleep apnea. Aside from that, what are other factors that being overweight can contribute to obstructive sleep apnea?
Well, sleep apnea kasi will disrupt yung normal na hormones natin. We have hormones that will tell us that you are full, nabusog ka na, that you should stop eating. So, disturbed yung mga ganon, no? Kung palagi kang sleep deprived or hindi maganda yung tulog mo.
In other words, Dr. Debbie, ang excess weight can make someone's sleep apnea worse. And sleep apnea can also lead to increased weight gain. Yeah. When we return, we'll talk more about how to diagnose and treat sleep apnea. Your health is our mission. This is Medtalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines.
Kini ang RPN DXKD Radio Runda 1053 kHz.
Mahigalan namong suking tigpaminaw, mayong adlaw kaninyong tanan. Ang DXKD AM Station RPN Management Dipolog City magpahigayon og libreng panag-inambitay sa pulong sa Ginoo. Dialogo sa kamaturan. Among giawag tanang magawali sa naklain-laing relihiyon sa pagtambong ning maong programa. Dialogo sa kamaturan. Aron mapabati sa tanang katawhan ang inyong matag baruganan sumala sa kamaturan alang sa hingpit nga kaluwasan ug kinabuhing walay katapusan. Dialogo sa kamaturan.
Ang dialogo sa kamaturan ninyong mabati matag alas 3 ngadto sa alas 5 sa hapon adlong Domingo.
News Recap Pupong on board. Pangitabo sa tulo ka distrito sa Zamboanga del Norte, kalambuan sa politika, showbiz o agrikultura. News Recap Pupong on board. Inilang sa Radio Runda alas 6 ngadto sa alas 9 adlong Domingo.
Paturagas. Muatod kaninyo sa mga labas nga mga balita. Paturagas. Mga balitang gikan sa lokal, regional ug nasyonal nga mga tinubdan. Paturagas. Biskot sa bisan unsang hinisgutanan nga may kalabigitan sa katawhan. Paturagas. Inyong mabati din hilamang sa RPN DXKD Dipolog 1053 sa dial sa inyong mga radyo. Ang tulmanong Paturagas inyong mabati matag alas 8 hangtod alas 10 sa buntag, Lunes hangtod Biyernes.
RPN DXKD Radio Runda 1053 kHz.
Treatment for this sleep disorder aims to normalize breathing as well as bringing oxygen back to good levels. This is all done during sleep and it addresses any underlying health conditions. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez and this is Medtalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. We're your connection to healthcare. Now let's talk about diagnosing sleep apnea. Paano ba nalalaman or paano napo-confirm na isang tao ay may sleep apnea? It's because anyone who feels consistently tired or sleepy during the day should consult a doctor to find out why and take steps to address the problem. Dr. Debbie, paano nagiging confirmatory ang isang taong merong sleep apnea?
We have what you call yung polysomnography or sleep study, no? So either matutulog yung pasyente sa isang laboratory and we record how he breathes, how the level of the sleep, may EEG patterns din yun, yung breathing sa abdomen, sa chest, meron din pulse oximeter na makikita, and then may video recording para makikita mo talaga what is happening while a patient is sleeping.
Now let's talk about treating naman, anong paggagamot sa sleep apnea. Because lifestyle changes are essential to normalize breathing and are your critical first steps to treating this sleep disorder. Now, I understand that maintaining a healthy weight is one way, pero Dr. Debbie, what are other ways para mas mapababa ang risk ng sleep apnea ng isang tao? Pwede bang pag binago ang sleep position ng isang tao, makakatulong ba ito sa pag-minimize ng sleep apnea episodes?
You make sure that the patient lies on his side and you can use anything na medyo matigas. Make sure na hindi talaga siya mag-turn on his back to prevent the snoring and sleep apnea episodes. And then also part of the lifestyle modification will be stopping the intake of alcohol, especially at night, no? And then smoking can also contribute to sleep apnea. Those are the lifestyle modifications that one can take.
Okay, so stopping alcohol, drinking alcohol, and stopping smoking can do so many health benefits, and one of them is lowering your risk for sleep apnea and its complications. Now, Ms. Crisel, if the modifications to someone's lifestyle don't improve someone's sleep condition, let's talk about yung mainstay treatment for sleep apnea or the first line, which is the CPAP machine. Paki-explain sa ating mga viewers kung ano ba yung CPAP.
So, ang CPAP device po is the gold standard for treating sleep apnea. So, what it does, it gives continuous positive airway pressure. So, it's like an airway stent that helps open up the airways during sleep and maintains yung open airways po. So, para po pag natutulog po tayo, tuloy-tuloy po yung paghinga na habang natutulog at hindi po na-istorbo po yung pagtulog po natin.
Okay, so advise our viewers, when you see a CPAP machine, it may be intimidating at first, but the benefits that it can give someone who is with chronic sleep apnea will be a game changer for you. So you will be able to feel that well-rested state that you haven't felt in a long time. Ngayon, kapag all of these don't work, there are still some more treatment options for you. Dr. Debbie, let's talk about kapag hindi gumana ang lifestyle change, kapag hindi gumana ang CPAP machine, when is surgery an option now for obstructive sleep apnea?
So, because not all patients will tolerate or will like using the CPAP machine. So, there are other ways that you can treat that. And in children, yung tonsillectomy and adenoidectomy, no, tatanggalin yung mga nakabara. That's the most common cause in children, except if they have craniofacial abnormalities or deformities, no. So meron din yung mga tinatawag na maxillofacial advancement, may mga ilalagay na splint dito sa jaw or they can operate dito sa jaws natin para i-advance, lumaki yung airway. In adults naman, syempre tatanggalin yung excess fat dito sa throat natin and there are implants that they can put, yung mga pillars na tinatawag para kumbaga mag-shrink yung exist.
So ang punto natin dito for our viewers is merong treatment option for any stage of your obstructive sleep apnea. What's most important is ma-diagnose kayo ng tama para yung tamang treatment ang maibigay sa inyo. And with that, we're glad you could join us on Medtalk Health Talk. Thank you, sleep specialist Dr. Deborah Bernardo and respiratory therapist Crisel Pascual. Thank you very much for your time and expertise. Sleep apnea is a common disorder that causes breathing interruptions during sleep, and this can lead to fatigue, difficulty focusing, and it can even lead to serious medical conditions. So, if you are a habitual snorer, a loud snorer, or you always feel tired and sleepy during the day, it's time to talk to your doctor. These may be warning signs and even red flags that you should not ignore. Once you've been diagnosed with a sleep disorder, there's a whole lot of treatments available to help you finally get that sleep you deserve. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this has been Medtalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines.